Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 10 kids who will restore your faith in humanity. So, sometimes the world can seem like a pretty intense place, but one thing which everyone knows is pretty pure and innocent are kids. Well, here is a collection of the most nice and kind kids in the world. These kids will blow your mind with their generosity, kindness, and will restore your faith in humanity. But before we begin, restore my faith in humanity by subscribing and pressing the notification bell too. So, coming in at number 10 we have Generous Kid. So, one thing kids don't have a lot of is money. They may get some money when it's their birthday or Christmas time, but it's usually not that much. And even if it was, it usually gets spent on candy or video games or all the other things kids want. Well, one kid saved up $120. Now that's already pretty impressive for a kid. But you'll never guess what he wanted to buy with that $120. Instead of buying toys or an Xbox or something for him, he bought something for others. Instead, this kid spent the $120 he'd been saving for an entire year on food. But it wasn't to organize some kind of massive buffet. No, he did something far better. That was, he made sandwiches with the money. He then bagged up those sandwiches and gave them to local homeless people. So, thanks to this young kid, hundreds of homeless people were able to eat. Most kids would not be thinking about doing something nice for other people like this. It's crazy that despite this kid's age, he has such great character. And just imagine how many homeless people's days were made when this kid gave them a free lunch. This kid really is inspiring and hopefully inspires all of us to be a bit kinder. Next up is Deer Saver. So, you may have seen a lot of news articles of animals saving kids. It seems to be a pretty common occurrence that an animal saves a kid's life. In fact, I've got an entire video on it. But in this situation, a kid saved an animal's life. This took place in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, there's a lot of rivers, and sometimes they can overflow. This can wipe out houses and wildlife. And of course, it ends up with many animals drowning. Well, one day a boy in Bangladesh noticed a baby deer stuck in the waters. It couldn't get out as it was way too small and weak. But instead of playing it safe and walking off or going to get an adult, he acted quick. He took off his shirt and dived into the water to save the deer. He even risked his own life to save this deer's life. His entire body, including his head, was under the water while he was raising the deer up with his arm. Amazingly, this boy's strength allowed this deer to survive. But I'm not just talking about his physical strength, I'm talking about his emotional strength and bravery. Seriously, this young kid did something most adults wouldn't do. It's just lucky this boy happened to be around when this baby deer needed a hero. Next up is Tear Dryer. So, this is an example of kids not exactly understanding the real world, but it's also an example of kids understanding it more than adults on an emotional level. So, one day on TV, a Japanese politician was crying. I don't read Japanese, so I don't know what he was crying about, but he seemed very sad. While this was happening, a dad and his daughter were watching the TV. That was when all of a sudden the little girl picked up a tissue and began wiping away the guy's tears. Now of course she was wiping a screen and his tears didn't really go away, but she obviously didn't really get this. However, it's still a very nice gesture and a very sweet photo to have. It's crazy that this baby can pick up on someone's emotions and try and comfort them. It was first posted in Japan and then quickly went viral around the world. Next up is coat donors. So we've already seen that very generous kid who gave away $120 of food to homeless people. Well, this is another example of kids helping out the homeless. We all know that for homeless people the winter is the worst time. It's incredibly cold outside and they have to sleep out there all night. And many homeless people don't even have enough money for basic clothing, let alone big thermal jackets. However, these Canadian kids did. That is why one winter in Canada, these kids tied their coats to street poles to help homeless people prepare for winter. They left labels on the coat saying they were free to take, and in the pockets they put things like gloves and socks. This is incredibly kind of these kids to do, especially as Canada in the winter gets incredibly cold. It's great to see these 7 kids helping out. And what's amazing is these kids came up with the idea and did it all by themselves. One internet user even said this made them cry. Did this also restore your faith in humanity? Next up is Cop Helper. So nowadays society is very tense. There's often issues with people and cops, and some say the cops are wrong and others say the people are wrong. But no matter what side of the argument you're on, you can't deny this is one very nice photo. One day in Baltimore there was some kind of riot, so there had to be many riot police on the scene to keep people safe. But it was a very hot day, but as these were riot police, they had very heavy armor on. That is why one very nice kid came around and gave all of the police free bottles of water. Kids aren't usually very political. And I don't think this kid is either. I think he's simply doing something nice for his community, which is a good thing. If that were me as a kid, I'd probably be trying to sell the water, not give it away. But I guess this kid's better at restoring your faith in humanity than me. Next up is a dog's hero. So we've already seen one kid save a deer, and while deer are nice, most people love dogs. More specifically, puppies. In fact, according to polls, puppies are America's favorite pets. Well, one day in the Philippines, there was a water flood. This left one little girl and her puppy stranded. Now, the girl could have just left the puppy and got out of there, but instead she decided to be incredibly brave and heroic. She was able to scoop her very small puppy up into a bowl and then take it across the water. She prioritized the dog's life over hers, putting the bowl on her head. It's really amazing that she did this and saved the dog's life. Most kids would be scared and freaking out, but she remained very calm and saved a life. I don't know who was taking this photo, they probably should have helped out. But either way, the image did capture many people's hearts and restored their faiths in humanity. Next up is Coach Saver. So every baseball team has a coach. In the MLB, baseball coaches simply want their players to win. But when it comes to little leagues, coaches must also protect their kids. But in this instance, one of the kids protected his own coach. One day, a baseball coach had a medical malfunction. He collapsed on the floor during a game, but luckily one very brave 13-year-old was around. He administered CPR on his coach and called 911, and amazingly his CPR worked and the coach was okay. The ambulance showed up and took his coach to hospital, but the doctor said he was totally fine, all thanks to this 13-year-old boy. He paid him a visit in hospital afterwards and he was able to thank the kid for saving his life. This really is an amazing story and an amazing kid. It really goes to show that heroes come in all sizes, and no matter how good this kid is at baseball, he's definitely the MVP. Next up is Athlete Brother. So, one of the fun things about being a kid is doing sports. It's probably one of the most memorable things from your childhood, but unfortunately for some disabled children, this is not the case. You may assume that most severely disabled children will not be able to compete in sports, but occasionally you do see amazing adults helping these kids out. Well, in this case, an 8-year-old kid helped his own brother out. One 8-year-old kid named Lucas is disabled. You may think this means he can't compete in any sports, but thanks to his 8-year-old brother Noah, this is not the case. And a few years back, they completed a triathlon together. Noah was able to push Lucas in the running race, he was able to bike with him in the cycling part, and he even attached an inflatable boat to himself for the swimming part. It's amazing that Noah was able to do this for Lucas, and it just goes to show that with a hero, you can make anyone's life amazing. Looking at how severe Lucas's disability is, you may think he would never be able to do sports, but it just took his one 8-year-old heroic brother to stop this. Now when anyone in town looks at these two, they'll see two amazing sportsmen. I have to say congrats to Luca and Noah's parents for raising such great kids. Next up is Animal Lover. So this one takes place in the Philippines. Unfortunately, in some places in the Philippines, there are many stray animals, and these animals are often taken and sold by butchers. But one 9-year-old boy decided to do something about this, so he created a safe zone for all animals. Of course, being a kid, he didn't have many resources, so he simply built a shelter in his own garage. He made it from wood and wrote Happy Animals Club on it. Now, this is a great thing, and he was able to help around 4 animals in his area. But once this got press attention, he got much more funding. Now he's able to help many stray animals in his area survive. It's amazing that this 9-year-old set up this massive charity. He didn't do it for any personal gain, and he simply wanted to help out these animals. I have to say, it seems Filipino kids are really good at restoring our faiths in humanity. Next up is Hair Donator. So one day a girl named Ariana was out with her dad. Ariana then saw a little girl who was bald. She was only 3 years old and she didn't understand, so she said to her dad, "Why is she bald?" Her dad then said she was very sick and the medicine made her hair fall out. And that was when Ariana said, "Oh, she can have some of my hair." And that was when Ariana said, "Oh, she can have some of my hair." So Ariana went and got a haircut and donated her hair. You may not know this, but there are actually many charities where you can donate your hair. This is for kids and adults who have lost their hair due to chemotherapy. This really is a touching story, and it's amazing that someone so young could be so conscious. Ariana definitely is an incredibly kind kid who restored all of our faiths in humanity. Next up is Frozen Kid. So this one is coming from China. Now in some parts of China things get freezing cold, and sometimes in rural areas kids have to go long ways to get to school. Well, this year a photo of one kid in a Chinese school went viral. Every day he walks 5 kilometers in the freezing cold to attend school, and because of the way his hair is, all the snow gets stuck to his hair. He really does look like he's frozen solid. Luckily this kid's okay, but it's amazing what some kids have to do to get to school. This really makes me grateful that I didn't have to do this to get to school. Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the best kid on this list. I think they're all great, but my personal favorite was the kid who gave those homeless people lunches. If you want more amazing videos, then check out my second channel. There'll be a link to that on screen in a moment. But as always, thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.